Okay, everybody, we are going to begin a meeting of the LA County Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. I believe this is our 8th special hearing on deputy gangs. And the first thing I want to do before we take the roll is tell everyone that our original executive director from the beginning, Brian Williams, is gone, and he's gone on to be a deputy mayor for public safety in Mayor Bass's office. So we have an interim executive director who is going to help us while the county finds conducts a national search for our long-term replacement for Brian. Danielle, you want to introduce yourself to the community? We are really happy to have you here, and I want to welcome you. And I think there are some members of the community who are interested, like if they can contact you. And so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chair Kennedy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out today. My name is Danielle Butler Vappie, and I am the Interim Executive Director of the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission. Very happy to be here with you guys. I've just started. I will definitely provide my contact information, my email, telephone number for you. Want to hear from the community. So please feel free to contact me. I will have staff help to give that information to you. I just want to thank Chair Kennedy, the ad hoc committee, and our special pro bono counsel, Bert Diexler, for their work on deputy gangs. It's been a long road for this commission studying how they could eradicate deputy gangs, and I think the report is very important. So I won't take any more time. I'll turn it back over to Chair Kennedy so we could hear from our special counsel, Bert Diexler. Thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. So Ingrid, I think we have to take the roll, right?
Yes. Commissioner Bonner,
Present.
Commissioner Cooper, Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner Giggans.
She is going to be a little late, but she'll be here.
Got it. Commissioner Harris,
Here.
Vice Chair Hicks, Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Chair Kennedy,
Here.
Commissioner Rubin.
Here.
Mr. Chair, I know we want to get to the matter, the business at hand, which is the special counsel's report, but I just want to go back for a moment on the executive director position. First of all, I want to say, and I think I speak for the entire commission here, that our former executive director now, Brian Williams, my judgment, did an outstanding job. He not only the executive director, the first executive director of the Oversight Commission, present at the time of its creation back in late 2016, early 2017. So I just want to take a moment and commend Brian and wish him well in his position as deputy mayor for public safety. The second, though, is just do we know what the process is to replace the executive director? What do we have? How does the Oversight Commission, and particularly the chair, have influence on how we select the next executive?
Well, I have told Danielle that we would love to offer input regarding that selection. My understanding is there's going to be a national search, and why don't I find out more? Why don't Danielle and I talk, and we will find out the specifics, and I will report on that because I know that many commissioners, if not all, would like to at least weigh in and have input, and I think that that's appropriate. And I told Danielle that as well, and I think we're in agreement that that's appropriate.
I just think it's essential that the Oversight Commission, particularly through its chair and vice chair, but the whole commission have input in the selection process for the next executive director. So I'm gratified to hear that we're going to move in that direction. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. We're going to start up because I think everyone wants to talk about Bert's groundbreaking report. And before we begin the discussion with the special counsel, I want to offer our chair of the ad hoc committee on deputy gangs and cliques, Lael Rubin, to start off this session, since this is really the culmination of many years of work by the ad hoc committee that you chair, Lael. So thank you for putting up with us.
Well, I want to thank the entire ad hoc committee for the incredible dedication and work and collegiality, even among disagreements as we have moved forward. This has been a long time coming. Those of you who have been with us know that this ad hoc committee was appointed soon after all of the information came to light about the banditos. The county hired the RAND Corporation to do a study. All of that took way too long. And we also, unfortunately, had a previous sheriff who would not work with us, who would not participate in any meaningful discussions on this subject, and who insisted from the beginning that there was not an issue with gangs in the sheriff's department. As you will hear from this outstanding report from our special counsel, that is far from the truth. And the Loyola report, which we have heard a great deal about, has summarized 50 years of gang activity by deputies in the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We are finally at the point that after 7 in-depth hearings, after an investigative effort by special counsel and his team, and all of this public information, which continues to flow in. So the subject is not over, but we have a willing partner in the new sheriff, Robert Luna. And that, as we move forward, while we certainly expect professional disagreements on a number of issues, he is a willing partner, has acknowledged from the beginning the existence of deputy gangs in the department and wanting to rid the department of that. So it is a confluence of many things that have finally gotten us to this day. And it's hard to believe that it's taken this long, but at least it's much less than what started 50 years ago. So thank you, Chair, for your leadership. And thanks to the other ad hoc members, James Harris and Robert Bonner, for all of their dedication and hard work. Thank you.
Quite a crew. I think it's time to start talking about report. Bert, you have been tireless in your efforts to investigate this in a fair, neutral, open-minded manner. I think you have done so. So what we were hoping is that you would, kind of frame the issue for everyone, maybe give us the highlights, and then if it's okay with you, I thought we'd open up for questions from the commission. Different commissioners. Some commissioners just saw this report. Ad hoc has been living with it and fighting about it for a long time, but the other commissioners, it's new to them, and then we'll invite really, anyways, most importantly, comments from the public, because they have just seen this report as well. Why don't you take over?
So, good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
It's
Morning.
lovely to see that we've gotten the band together again. On Wednesday, the Commission posted on its website the report and recommendation of Special Counsel. It runs in excess of 60 pages. And as they say, as judges say in court, we're familiar with your submissions. If you could briefly summarize your points, that would allow us to move it along. So I would hope that the Commission would indulge me for 15 or 20 minutes or so as I hit the greatest hits, to use my metaphor further, and let everybody know what we have done, what we have found, and what we recommend. The report reflects the results of approximately 75 witness interviews, review of hundreds of documents, deposition transcripts, and a wide array of previous reports addressing the core subject matter. Our investigation was assisted materially by the wide array of people who were willing to be interviewed. It was also hampered by others who refused to speak or feigned unfamiliarity with the issues we sought to address. Many of the people who spoke with us, including retired sheriff's employees, expressed fears. Those fears included concerns for their physical safety and their career goals. Indeed, one of the things we learned is the extent to which service in the department is and has been a kind of family affair. Many of the people with whom we spoke expressed fears of personal or professional harm, not just for themselves, but often for spouses and children who serve in the department. And let me remind everybody, lest we forget, we were quite interested in interviewing or having the former sheriff or undersheriff testify before you. Those polite invitations were declined and those subpoenas were ignored. But let me not bury the lead. Contrary to the statements of the prior sheriff, deputy gangs exist and operate in the department as they have for the last 50 years. They are a cancer. They harm the department generally, they harm the people who work for the department, and they harm the public. At minimum, the investigation revealed that deputy gangs are present in Compton Station, East LA Station, South LA Station, Century Station, and the Antelope Valley stations. In addition, we've received disturbing reports about Aero Bureau, the part of the department that operates helicopters. The investigation revealed at Aero Bureau that at minimum, there is a deputy clique, and under the Penal Code section 13670, perhaps a deputy gang in the Aero Bureau. The investigation has revealed that these gangs, by their operation, make daily life for the deputies more dangerous. Non-gang members fear the power and sanctions of the gangs. Imagine working in a law enforcement organization in which members who do not belong to a gang are ostracized, assaulted, left without requested backup, and exist in fear that if they speak truth, they'll have dead rats placed on their doorstep. The department appears as an organization in which disfavored deputies have the lug nuts of their cars loosened. They are followed home for purposes of intimidation, including after they have testified before this very commission. Deputies have had their careers halted or disrupted by being forced to leave a desirable position for personal safety concerns when told by gang members, "We don't like you." Department members suffer career setbacks due to bad-mouthing, passed from gang member to gang member, and then to outsiders to the department. What workplace would tolerate colleagues who deface and post business cards of the disfavored? who routinely turn their back as colleagues walk down the hall. A workplace in which colleagues who won't use their weapon without cause being mocked for missing a, quote, freebie to shoot a suspect. Imagine a law enforcement agency required to follow the Constitution that has training officers who tell their trainees that their reports need to have good imagination and instruct on how to work backwards to develop after the fact justification for police officers. Training officers who train the new trainees to claim that all searches in high crime areas were to be reported as consensual. And when the trainee protests to describe, the trainee is denominated a rat. The investigation has revealed that all of those imaginings have been experienced by current and former members of the department, and that information is set forth in some detail in our report. The investigation revealed that the gangs are empowered to decide who works on what shifts and where they're assigned to patrol. Disfavored deputies are overwhelmed by the dispatcher with calls all over the service area. Shot callers who decide who gets to be a training officer and who they will train, and even get to decide who can take a day off. Junior deputies are required to pay taxes to senior deputies. That is, to buy the seniors what they desire, pay for meals, or make unwanted contributions to causes identified by senior deputies. They have to do the bidding of self-appointed shot callers, just like a street gang. This is an organization in which a shot caller is told by a superior in the chain of command that the captain, not the shot caller, will decide who will be assigned a position in the station. And in response, the shot caller announces a work slowdown enforced not only as to fellow gang members, but forced upon non-gang members also. Statistics reveal that when policing slowed down, crimes went up and the public needing service was harmed. The investigation revealed an organization in which, under the authority of the sheriff, investigators of a crime were instructed not to explore the motive for the crime, instructed not to ask about whether a serious deputy-on-deputy beating was a gang power flex, or, just as the former sheriff preferred to conceal it, drunken brawl. Imagine how the community entitled to constitutional policing perceives a department in which deputies treat each other as I have described. If the deputies treat each other this way, what can those outside the department expect about how they will be treated? Unfortunately, as to the community's reaction, we needn't imagine. The commission has heard regularly from community members who have poignantly shared their truth of the pain suffered because of the actions of deputies. The investigation has revealed that deputies chasing Inc. have engaged in excessive force. They've diverted arrestees heading to the hospital and administered beatings. Shootings are celebrated in parties and openly documented in emails and texts. Recently, in a widely circulated body camera video, the community has seen a man in a parked car threatened at gunpoint by a deputy. The video reveals the deputy unable to explain what the man did to deserve being held at gunpoint and told that if you put the car in drive, I'll put one in your chest. We now know the man didn't have a front license plate. Not a cause to be threatened with death. The investigation has revealed that at least 2 current captains report that the deputy in this example is a deputy gang member, and a public report has confirmed that. The community appreciates that if this is how deputies act when their body cameras are on, what might they do when those cameras are off? The investigation revealed that a tattooed executioner gang member was involved in the shooting and tasing of separate victims and cost the county nearly $10 million in settlements paid to the victims. The community, which is to be served in large part, has no confidence in the department and lives in fear that the department, through unconstitutional policing, will not help but will harm them. This perception that the deputies will harm increases the risk for all deputies as they provide service. It reinforces the community members to not be inclined to assist law enforcement. In our report, we're asking the commission to call upon Sheriff Luna to exercise leadership to change the culture for the benefit of the department, its employees, and most importantly, the community which the department is to serve. The change will require an all hands on deck response from every member of the department, the unions, the district attorney, and the county council. The sheriff cannot succeed on his own, and the community cannot afford to have him fail. The unions, while obligated to fairly represent all their members, should not tolerate rogue members whose actions harm their fellow union members by triggering investigations, legal expense, and reputational harm to the vast majority of members who privately deplore the gangs and their misconduct. We stress that we are speaking of only a minority of department members who are bad actors. In fairness, we recognize that the overwhelming majority of department members are committed to doing the right thing and have had their reputations damaged and their work made more difficult by the cliques and gangs. The commission should urge the sheriff to meet with the unions to encourage them to accept the need to eliminate deputy cliques and gangs and to partner with the sheriff to accomplish that important goal. The commission should also urge the sheriff to meet with the unions to discuss the elimination of the offensive indicators of membership in such gangs and cliques, such as tattoos suggesting violence and insulting professional logos. Recently, a union representative chastised a captain for a memo discouraging deputies from obtaining such tattoos. That kind of counterproductive activity by the union has to cease. County council should work proactively with the sheriff to announce its opinions, legally justifying the elimination of deputy cliques and gangs and the related offensive tattoos depicting violence and offensive logos. Our recommendations, 27 in all, call for the sheriff to explicitly prohibit gangs as well as the exclusionary precursors to deputy gangs, so-called deputy cliques. We call upon the sheriff to express this policy clearly, to ensure that the leadership will convey it with vigor, and to ensure that it is enacted so that all are held accountable. We recommend that those in the department who are unsupportive or hesitant or in any way unwilling to carry out the policy be removed from positions of influence, demoted, or, where appropriate, fired from the department. We're calling upon the sheriff to make non-participation in cliques or gangs a condition of employment. Further, we're calling upon the sheriff to outlaw tattoos, unprofessional logos, or other signifiers depicting violence. No new tattoos, no smoking gun tattoos, no Fort Apache logos, no ghetto birds logos. Those days should end. For those already tattooed who will remain with the department, we recommend that tattoos be ordered, concealed while working or when representing the department. One of the recurring problems the investigation has identified is the long period of time many deputies spend in their first or home station. This is a natural but potentially harmful consequence in remaining in place for lengthy periods. The investigation has revealed that loyalty to a station rather than the department as a whole frequently occurs. This can serve as a breeding ground for an us versus them mentality that encourages membership in cliques and gangs. A new deputy imagining a long period in a single location may naturally be inclined to seek acceptance among the ruling cliques and gangs and to, quote, make their bones, as a witness put it, by adopting the values of the clique. Longevity in place, while beneficial in some ways and often personally convenient, also operates to shift power and control of the station outside the chain of command. Power devolves to senior, self-selected, exclusionary cliques and gangs, thereby undermining the paramilitary chain of command of the department and stripping authority from station leadership. In many instances, the longevity in place is rather like being a senior in high school forever. We recommend that this change. Drawing upon the recommendations of the Citizens Commission on Jail Violence, the CCJV, we recommend a mandatory rotation of deputies within a division, if possible, every 5 years or sooner. In addition, we urge the department to reassess 2 aspects of initial assignments for deputies coming from the academy. First, we suggest the department consider implementing a dual track of assignment for a career in custody or a career in patrol. The skills and inclinations of the new deputies and the desired career paths may make for better outcomes if new deputies can choose between the 2 options. Further, we recommend that the sheriff consider first assignment of all deputies, even those who wish a career in custody, to patrol. Under the mentorship of experienced patrol leaders, new deputies can learn from the beginning of their careers courteous, professional treatment of the public. In the words of one witness, they can learn how to talk somebody into jail and not beat them into jail. We would recommend that the commission ask the sheriff to provide a written report explaining whether these alternatives can be implemented, and if not, why not? We are recommending a robust training program coupled with strict accountability. Supervisors must mentor the deputies on the dangers, including potential career-ending consequences if one belongs to a deputy clique or deputy gang. Before mentoring deputies, however, it's imperative that supervisors be taught how to mentor. Handing out written guidelines without more won't meet the moment. And so we call for a revival of the Sergeant's Mentoring Initiative to ensure sergeants' mentoring of deputies is maximally effective. As mentioned, part of the mentoring should include reiteration of the sheriff's instruction that serious consequences for deputy gang membership will occur. The deputies need to be told that they will risk demotion, transfer to less important positions, or where appropriate, termination if they deviate from the clear stated policy of this sheriff. One significant way to impose accountability is a requirement that any promotion include consideration of whether the candidate has been or is currently a member of a deputy clique or gang. The consideration should include whether promotion of that candidate will send a message to the department that the sheriff is not serious about accountability for such clique and gang membership. The investigation has revealed that in the past, known tattooed gang members have been promoted to high positions. Such promotions send the exact wrong message. We're recommending that the department implement a procedure to notify the district attorney if a deputy is a member of a deputy gang. The district attorney must have that information to determine whether disclosure of the gang involvement is required by Brady versus Maryland. Absent such a protocol, it is difficult, if not impossible, to ensure the district attorney complies with its important Brady obligations. The announced mission of the department is to partner with the community, to proactively prevent crime, enforce the law fairly, and enhance the public's trust through transparency and accountability. In accordance with that mission, we urge the commission to recommend that the department hold a regular and continuing series of community meetings involving captains, commanders, and chiefs to hear from the community about the impact of deputy gangs and cliques in their neighborhoods. The dialogue with the community would be enhanced by a formal community advisory committee at every station. The members must include those critical of the department so that leaders can hear for themselves how the community is perceiving the department. A committee of only department cheerleaders would be unhelpful, indeed counterproductive. We recognize, in the words of the RAND report, that culture eats policy. We understand that we are recommending a very difficult cultural transformation of a large organization long set in its ways. However, the status quo is not an option. We cannot have this department riddled with these cancerous gang behaviors that lead to internal and external harm, multi-million-dollar lawsuits and legal fees, and a public disgusted and fearful of the agency designed to serve them. Change must happen now. After 50 years of gangs, we ask, if not now, when? I welcome the opportunity to address any questions the commissioners may have, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bert. We're going to start with commissioners. If anyone has any questions or comments about the report, our hope is to have a robust discussion of the issues. And then, at our next regularly scheduled meeting, vote on this special counsel report. Rob.
A couple of questions for Mr. Diexler. First of all, as referenced in page 18 of the report, and just spoke about the degree of fear that exists within the Sheriff's Department by the vast majority of deputies who do not belong to deputy cliques or deputy gangs. And I'm just wondering, how do we affect cultural change without essentially addressing that fear? And part of addressing that fear is a sheriff and a management team of the sheriff that makes it absolutely clear that any kind of retaliation against any deputy who calls out members of the department that are members of deputy gangs, any kind of retaliation is just not going to be tolerated. I don't care whether it's dead rats at the doorstep or it's unparked surveillance vehicles in front of their houses. But I'm just wondering, do you feel that the message is adequate in your report to the sheriff that he's got to make that absolutely clear if he's going to be able to not only implement but enforce policies banning deputy gangs and deputy cliques within the Sheriff's Department?
Well, Judge Bonner, I think you identify a core issue that we faced as we interviewed people. We had the extraordinary circumstance of people describing loosening lug nuts and dead rats on their doorstep. And I always have in mind the vision of a former Marine who is physically robust, let me put it that way, who was recounting some of the abuse that he had received day to day as he choked up, recounting how ostracized and humiliated he felt every day. And when I said to him, as we often did in meetings, now is the time to come forward and let everybody know what you've heard. He said, I cannot take that risk. It would be the end of me, or to that effect. From the input I've received thus far from the sheriff, and in particular, the sheriff's constitutional advisor, I think the message is clear that this sheriff is going to change things, and that I hope the message is clear that people will understand that they will be at risk if they engage in retaliation. If the report, which I hope I'll have the opportunity to correct and extend, since I've had the awful experience of finding a thing or two that I thought for sure I had gotten right, and now I wonder about
Happens to all of us, Bert.
I would be delighted to stress the need to emphasize no retaliation, and that too should be a grounds of transfer, demotion, or termination.
Question, if I could.
Yes.
I'll have a comment I'll make later about the report. But, I think it's very important that this commission and Sheriff Luna look forward with respect to these recommendations and the implementation of them. But I'm going back to, this is found, I think, principally at page 5 and 17 of your report. And it is the evidence that was adduced by special counsel during public hearings that the former sheriff and his chief of staff, Del Macy, there's evidence that they obstructed a criminal investigation into deputy gang involvement with respect to the Kennedy Hall assault. And I'm wondering, has the potential, I'll just call it a potential obstruction of justice that occurred there, has that been referred to the district attorney's office, or do you know?
Well, we know that that there was a report from Max Huntsman of the Inspector General of the county to that effect. Whether it has been followed up, we don't presently know, but perhaps the district
I
attorney-
believe it should be. Let me ask Mr. Huntsman, do you know whether the district attorney has undertaken its own review and investigation because it was badly misled by the criminal report that was provided to it during the Kennedy Hall incident, which did not, as we know, did not make any inquiries into deputy gangs or subcultures within the department, and that could place a whole different coloration, if you will, on how that would be evaluated by the district attorney's office as to whether it should have been prosecuted or not. They obviously declined prosecution, but there wasn't a word in that report that was done by the sheriff's department that went into the fact that this was the banditos who beat down severely, caused severe injuries to other deputies who were not part of the banditos. And yet, so there is an apparent obstruction of justice here. That's all I'm saying. And I'm not making a judgment on it, but I do believe the district attorney's office should be investigating whether there was an obstruction of justice by Del Meese and the former sheriff, Alex Villanueva. Is there an investigation, or do you know?
I do not know for certain, but I agree 100% with everything you've said. It is one example of a number of acts by the sheriff's department over the past 4 years, which I believe amounted to obstruction of justice or other crimes, or at least potentially did so. In the case of the threat to myself, which I reported to the district attorney's office, the attorney general's office, and the U.S. attorney's office, the number of criminal investigators who've interviewed me about that incident is 0. As to the specific incident you ask about, I specifically brought it to the attention of the district attorney. To my knowledge, no meaningful action was taken.
Right. I'm just going to ask special counsel to consider, obviously I don't want to put you on the spot here, Mr. Diexler, but consider at least referring those sections of your report to the district attorney's office that indicate at least a potential obstruction of justice that occurred by former chief of staff Del Meese and Alex Villanueva with respect to the Kennedy Hall investigation.
Will do.
Thank you.
Bert, can I just ask you, the ad hoc committee and yourself, we struggled throughout this process to develop the evidence of harm to communities, because so many people who have lost a loved one to sheriff shootings believe that the shooter was a deputy gang member. But then when they try to ask that question, they encounter a wall of opposition from important county agencies. We even had it here when we tried to ask the Sheriff Villanueva's chief of staff, Mr. Del Meese, if he was a tattooed a Reaper. And so like when we review depositions, either the county council or the contract lawyers hired by the county to defend the deputies who used violence or shot people, there are objections that it is protected information. It's private. It's I guess constitutional privacy, that you can't ask that. Then when you ask the sheriff leadership to ask their own deputy if he's in a deputy gang or if he has a deputy gang tattoo. The sheriff leadership says they can't ask that. They're not permitted to ask that. It violates the First Amendment. And then when this commission finally convinces the county council to write a legal opinion about that, and the county council does, that same county council tells us that we can't release their opinion in 2021, saying there is absolutely no problem at all for the sheriff to ask his own deputies if they have a deputy gang tattoo or if they're in a deputy gang. But we can't release it because the Board of Supervisors, on the advice of the county council, won't waive attorney-client privilege, so that has to be kept secret. And so my question is, I'm really worried about the members of the public who suffer unconstitutional policing at the hands of deputy gangs. And of course, it's in areas that are already struggling: East LA, South LA, Compton, Lancaster. And how do these people get the information they need when nobody will answer the question or ask the question, deputy so-and-so, are you in a deputy gang member? Are you in a deputy gang? What gang? Do you have a tattoo? And then compile that information, because we've seen a lot of them are repeat users of violence or repeat shooters, and it's all hidden from us. And it just is so unfair to the public that they can't get an answer to that question, because it's terrible what you're talking about the deputies who have suffered. But I think the community has suffered way more. They have lost their family members and been given no real explanation.
So I think that's exactly correct. I think part of the problem with the county council taking its position that it won't reveal a genuinely thorough and correct legal opinion, that this nonsense about you can't ask about tattoos or punish somebody for being a gang member, has led to a circumstance in which, at least in the case of ALADS, they commissioned a legal opinion which has more holes in it than a Swiss cheese, and was relied upon by the former sheriff as his explanation for why he couldn't possibly ask or have anybody on his behalf ask whether people are members of gangs, whether they have tattoos and the like. That is carried over into the civil litigation, and I have read more depositions, I promise you, in civil litigations than any person now walking the earth. And it is ordinary and customary for a lawyer to ask, are you a member of a gang? Are you tattooed? And from time to time, you have somebody like Deputy Aldama who says yes and names his friends and shows his tattoo and says some other hideous and despicable things. But in general, it is the case that lawyers hired by the county, because typically it is outside counsel who are being paid by the taxpayers, instruct the witness not to disclose on the vague notion of privacy that they, whether they have tattoos or whether they are members of gangs. It is and there have been some efforts made to compel that. I know Judge Maury Leiter, former Assistant United States Attorney, has regarded such an instruction as nonsensical and instructed that the question be answered. It's something that I believe is in the purview of county council and reflects what I have spoken of before, which is the conflict that the county council has in, on the one hand, hiring lawyers to defend the misconduct of deputy gangs, while at the same time representing the constituents of the county who would like to put an end to deputy gangs. And I understand that their position is we have different portions of the county council who are in charge of these things. I can remember when I was an assistant United States attorney having a federal judge, when I try to distinguish different branches of the federal government, say to me, there's only one government. And so I think it is fair to say that there's only one county council, and the idea that we're protecting the public while permitting these mindless assertions of privacy claims about core issues that are causing harm to our community is something that needs to change quickly. And I believe that the sheriff and the constitutional advisor to the sheriff might well weigh in and explain why it is important that these issues be ventilated so that the community will have the benefit of knowing exactly who it is who did what to them and perhaps the reason why.
Lael?
Thank you. I want to piggyback on a couple of questions, both from Commissioner Bonner and the chair. During the entire course of my 6 years on this commission, I've been very concerned, as has Chair Kennedy, about members of the public and how they're so badly served by this department. And, you know, we were fed that information on a number of occasions, not only by former sheriff, but the former undersheriff as well. In addition to the recommendation by Commissioner Bonner of seeking to refer possible criminal conduct to the district attorney, I would add that I would hope you would make a similar referral to the Attorney General's office, because they ostensibly are reviewing a number of issues, and this might be added to their portfolio. In talking about ALADs and the kind of pushback that has been received and publicly urged by ALADs, did you attempt to interview any of the leadership of ALADs during the course of your investigation?
We didn't attempt that because ALADS had given an instruction to its members to, one, not accept subpoenas from the commission, two, directed them to specific groups of lawyers who they were told would assist them in not having to testify. And while I surely would have been happy to speak to ALADS, you don't have to be a weatherman to know which way the wind is blowing. So, but if they would like to speak further with us or at all, I would be delighted to conduct an interview and speak with anybody who will want to tell us the ALADS side of the story and why a law enforcement union would counsel law enforcement to not accept subpoenas and to not testify. And as long as they're speaking about it, why they would send communications to a captain who's encouraging law enforcement members not to get tattoos depicting violence. So there are a lot of subjects I would love to discuss with any ALADS representative, and I'll put out a call right here. And they can.
Well, I would assume somebody in the ALADS leadership is listening to this discussion, and they would come forward and recognize that things have changed. They want to be part of a solution and continue to protect their members, that they ought to go with the new program. Participating in a conversation, in a discussion. I know that Sheriff Luna has publicly stated he's certainly willing to sit down and listen to them, but they need to come to the table and recognize that things have changed. I'll pass.
But
if-
talking about, just to follow on with what Commissioner Rubin is saying, which is, I would just say right now that the commission would welcome James Wheeler, who's the president of ALADS, to come before us, tell us what he thinks of the continued existence of deputy cliques and gangs, and whether that's good for the vast majority of the membership of of ALADS. So we would also welcome him here. We would welcome that he would sit down with you and be interviewed. Sorry. Sure.
Any questions or comments?
I would just like to say that the report is an incredible service to the people of Los Angeles. And the pro bono aspect of your research and your findings is incredibly gratefully received, and a service that is overdue as you document 50 years of denial, obfuscation, foot dragging, and stonewalling about the reality that is documented here in this report, and a compilation of 7 previous hearings to gather testimony from Angelenos. It is stunning the level of denial and active efforts to suppress and refuse to recognize the evidence that this report has put forward. And I just want to say that not only are you scrubbing away years of grime and deliberate efforts to cover up this problem, but I am very grateful for the 27 recommendations that you provide, especially the 10 around accountability that prescribe nothing less than a cleaning protocol, a cleansing protocol for a problem that has gone unaddressed and actively covered up for a long time. And I just want to note for the public and for commissioners here, this is not a problem in the past. This is an ongoing issue. At our last hearing, we heard about a deputy coming to the home of someone who had confronted the sheriff about violence against her son and trying to intimidate her on her own doorstep after having dared to come to speak out against that beating and what trauma it caused to her family. And I just want to note that, yes, we have an incredible moment of opportunity here because we have a sheriff who is from outside the ranks of this department. But this problem, as much as it might be tempting to think about it as in the past or somehow in amber, because of how compelling and clear this well-prepared report is an active and ongoing problem that continues to corrode public trust and continues to eat away at people's sense of safety. And finally, I will just note that as it notes on page number 42 of the report, this is about the fundamental safety and the practice of law enforcement and the helpfulness of deputies themselves. As it says, the treatment and gang activities of deputy clique members toward their brothers and sisters in uniform is a chilling statement of the paramount interest of the department and the county in protecting its own employees and not tolerating persistent violations of law and fundamental principles of professional policing. And as you note, if this can be done to deputies, just imagine how much worse it is to the public, as that witness at last month's hearing showcased. So I just want to thank you, and I also want to commit from myself and I think from my fellow commissioners to pursuing these recommendations and ensuring that they get acted on and that government stops being complicit in that obfuscation, foot dragging, and stonewalling, as Commissioners Bonner and Rubin have already pointed out. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson.
Anyone else?
John, I want to make sure everybody else, I just wanted to make a comment too. I mean, apropos what Hans just said, that is, first of all, I want to applaud and congratulate our special counsel, Mr. Diexler, and his team for pulling together a no punches report that clearly lays out the horrific impact of the deputy clique culture, the deputy gang culture within the sheriff's department and on its own personnel. All of those deputies who have not joined cliques or have been excluded from joining cliques, and on the and also the impacts, the horrific impacts on the public that the department is there to serve. Not only does the Diexler report set out the facts in detail, by the way, in greater detail than any other report that's ever been made on this subject, and there have been reports going back 50 years or 30 years anyway since the Colts Commission. You've laid out the details, and you've made, as Hans indicated, 27 spot-on recommendations. It's not to say there couldn't be some additional recommendations that can be considered down the line, but these are important recommendations, and they're important that they be implemented as soon as possible, in my opinion. So I'm going to urge my fellow commissioners to approve the special counsel's recommendations and get them to Sheriff Luna without delay. I'll make a motion in that regard in just a moment. While I believe this to be, by the way, a historic moment for our commission, the Oversight Commission of the Sheriff's Department, I also fear that the Diexler report, when it comes to actually ridding the department of deputy gangs, may have the same fate as the Colts Commission, the report of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, the commission, CCJV Commission in terms of its recommendations with the risks of deputy clicks, the RAND study, I could name more. Nothing happens. So I say, by the way, to Sheriff Luna, who I think is certainly his heart is on in the right place here. But I say to Sheriff Luna, with all due respect, that these recommendations need to be adopted, they need to be implemented, and then they need to be enforced. For these reforms to be effective, because we are talking about cultural change here, it is essential that the sheriff give the goal of ridding the department of deputy gangs, deputy cliques, which are their precursors, and let's not quibble over terms here, but it is essential that to be effective, the sheriff needs to make this a priority goal, his top priority for the department until at long last we can say they are no more. So with that, I'm going to make a motion, and I want to do this before public comment so the public can comment on the motion. And I would move that the commission approve the report of the commission's special counsel, and that the commission adopt all of the special counsel's recommendations as recommendations of the Sheriff Civilian Oversight Commission or commission. Further, that the chair of the Civilian Oversight Commission forward the report and recommendations of this commission forthwith to Sheriff Robert Luna, with the commission's strong recommendation that he adopt, implement, and enforce the recommendations with all deliberate speed. That's my motion. Thank you, Mr.
Of course.
Can I mention, could we add that we, once we approve it, that we not only send it to the sheriff, but directly to the Board of Supervisors?
Well, a copy will go to the board. No, I think the copy should go to the board, of course. You should send this to Sheriff Luna. He's the one that needs to make the change.
Thank you for that motion. One of the concerns expressed by a number of community groups, a number of us have continued to hear from them as they were certainly aware that there was going to be a report and recommendation forthcoming, that they wanted an opportunity to weigh in and submit their comments and their recommendations as well. And I know that the chair has advised these groups that they will that they will have this opportunity. So I don't know how, if we were to ultimately approve the motion that Commissioner Bonner has just made, how that would affect the ability of a number of important groups who wanted input, the opportunity to do so. And perhaps the chair can respond to that.
If I could respond, I don't see these as mutually exclusive. The ACLU and all interested parties here of the public, that has comments are going to be able to do that, maybe suggest additional recommendations, and maybe suggest reasons why we shouldn't adopt the 27 recommendation. I don't know. We're going to have public comment in just a moment, but I wonder, before we have public comment, I would ask at least a second for my motion so we can have discussion of it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, JP. Okay, so there's a motion seconded. Now let's discuss it amongst ourselves and then let's get public comment.
Understood, but I had posed a question to the chair, and so I'd like.
What was the question?
Question was and is how the important community groups who wanted an opportunity to respond before the commission adopted the report and recommendation, how that discussion would weigh in. And I know that the chair has probably had more conversations with these groups than I have, but I'd ask for Chair Kennedy to respond to my inquiry.
Why don't we defer that until we hear from the public? I'd like to hear from the public.
Thank you.
So I think the time has come for public comment, Ingrid, and how are we going to make that work? Because the public, right, they have something to say about this, and I think everyone on this commission really wants to hear from them.
If you have a comment regarding the current motion, please submit your name, submit a comment card to me, and I will call you in order of. Our first speaker is Michelle Infante.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Michelle Infante. I'm with Dignity and Power Now. It's very frustrating listening to what's happening up here because families have been coming up for years, and I've been doing this for 9 years. And I'm somebody that's not real smart, but what I see happening here, what I've noticed over the last 9 years, is that there's a huge conflict of interest with the County Board of Supervisors. They seem to have a control over a triangle here. It's the County Board of Supervisors, the Sheriff's Department, and the County Coroner. Coroner perpetuates the lie from the Sheriff's Department. And the coroner doesn't have any responsibility. The only responsibility that they have is back to the County Board of Supervisors. Who are the people that make the decisions about the price of what a case is worth? It's the County Board of Supervisors. These families have been bringing information to this committee, this commission, for 6 years. And it's been the same thing over and over again. There's a huge conflict of interest here. It's like you're the buffer between that tries to make things better for the community. But yet you take this stuff back, and we just heard Mr. Diexler how the county stops and brings in attorneys to stop the Sheriff's Department from being in trouble. It's like you come up here and you say this stuff, and the community hears it, and they're wondering, how are they supposed to get any further when the brakes are being put on by the very people that are supposed to be in this position to be helping them? And then they create this committee or this commission, and all you've been doing for the last 6 years is taking information back to the people that are putting the brakes on everything. It's not that I don't appreciate having this commission. I was a part of it being built from the very beginning, so I have an extra appreciation for everyone that's here and the work that's being done as far as you've come with what you can do. But you need to go back and you need to talk to the people that are directly involved with stopping what's going on in everything that you're talking about. Because you come up here month after month talking about the same stuff, but we have comments and statements by an attorney that's very honest and forthcoming with information, and he's saying that the brakes are being put on by the very people that are supposed to be helping these people in the community. And it's not that they've lost their loved ones. They haven't gotten lost. They didn't get lost behind a tree.
Thank
These
you for your
people are getting
comments.
killed. And so when you use the language, you need to say it. and you need to say it the way that it is. These people have been killed by the very people that the County Board of Supervisors keep putting the brakes on with their cases.
Time is up.
Go back and say
Thank
something
you for your
different and do
comments.
something
We
different.
have to follow up with the next speaker. Our next speaker is Frankie Carrillo. If you wish to make a public comment regarding the motion, please move here and we have comment cards for you to sign. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. Good morning. Members
Morning.
of the public. I am very grateful that the wheels of justice are turning. And in my opinion, they're turning in the right direction. As many of you know, over 30 years ago, my life was turned upside down when Sheriff gang members out of the Linwood Station here in Los Angeles County framed me for murder I didn't commit. They abused their authority, forced witnesses to lie against me, went to court, and they themselves began to lie as well. After 20 years of suffering inside of California's prisons, I was exonerated. But not until another battle within the Sheriff's Department, because guess what? They didn't want to face the fact that they had been exposed. So for me, this is a great sign that we're going in the right direction. Obviously, for many of us, including myself, it dates back decades. For the good or bad of it, any movement in the right direction, I welcome and I'm really excited about. So I thank you, Commissioners, for all the work that you're doing. I know this is hard work. There's many different forces at play here, but for you to stand here firm on the fact that justice needs to prevail, no matter what, gives me the strength and power to share my story and support this commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie.
Our next speaker, Valerie Vargas, followed by Andres Kwan. Our next speaker, Valerie Vargas. Okay, moving on to our next speaker, Andres Kwan.
Andres Kwan, ACLU. September 2021, in light of the RAND report, Check the Sheriff demanded the Board of Supervisors take some action instead of simply filing the report. The board then directed this body to investigate and report back with recommendations for a holistic approach for eradicating deputy gangs and addressing related problems. We applaud your assiduous work with little to no resources. Because of your investigation, we have a better understanding today of the current goings-on of deputy gangs. The civilian oversight has been fundamental to keep the paramilitary sheriff's department in check. It reminds me of Argentina in 1995, when lawyers with few resources did the democracy-building work of investigating the human rights abuses, atrocities carried out by the military junta during what's known as La Guerra Sucia, the Dirty War. I grew up in Argentina. I went to secondary school blocks from the presidential house, and every Thursday I witnessed Las Madres de la Plaza de Mayo marching. Las Madres were the mothers of people killed or disappeared by the military and police. With their white handkerchiefs on their heads, they marched every Thursday without fail, ultimately bringing about truth and accountability. They've inspired generations of folks fighting for human rights. Just like Las Madres, the mothers and families of community members killed by Los Angeles Sheriff's deputies and deputy gang members, they should also inspire us deeply. In the midst of our own human rights crisis, these families have been standing up courageously in the face of immense adversity, even harassment and retaliation for seeking truth and accountability. And so we must listen to the families and take the time to do so. And before you adopt these recommendations, you need to consult with the families and pay close attention. And we have specific recommendations that we will submit to you that you should also make of the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you, Andres.
Our next speaker, Eric J. Miller, followed by Stephanie Luna, followed by Richie Sergenko.
Say I'm speaking in my individual capacity here and not in any representative capacities I may occupy. I just want to agree with Mr. Kwan's comments. The Board of Supervisors is considering the funding to be given to the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. But the Board of Supervisors has failed, as this report suggests, for 50 years to take seriously the issue of sheriff deputy gangs, and in particular, the terroristic activities of these institutions and the community members that the Board of Supervisors are supposed to represent. And so I wonder why we haven't heard from members of the Board of Supervisors. Why is the institution that is supposed to protect the public encouraging its employees, including county council, to do what is in effect offering material support to a criminal terroristic organization? I'd want to hear what the Board of Supervisors is doing to eradicate deputy gangs. What is the Board of Supervisors doing to remediate the harms of these gangs that it has tolerated under its authority for 50 years? What are the mayors of the impacted communities doing to deal with the sheriff deputy gangs that operate in their jurisdictions? What is the Board of Supervisors doing to eradicate its own comprehensive failure, one that extends beyond the Board of Supervisors through 50 years of district attorney inaction, county council inaction, union inaction, and court inaction to prohibit these institutions from terrorizing the public? In fact, worse than inaction, one can argue providing material support to these deputy gangs by covering up their activity, by refusing to prosecute the gang members, and by paying them out of public funds whenever they are sued by members of the public. So the impact on the communities is horrific. We have not really heard
Sir, your time is up.
about that impact, and it's time that the Board of Supervisors
Thank you for
did
your
something
comments.
about it. Thank you very much.
Valerie Vargas.
Good morning. There's just a lot to say here. My name is Valerie Vargas. I'm the aunt of Anthony Vargas. And to be honest, like, I don't even know if I should introduce myself as somebody who was the aunt of somebody who was murdered by an LASD gang or as a survivor of the gang violence by the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department. You know, Robert's calling for more budget money to create a super gang, to get rid of another gang. And that's like that's how we got here in the first place, and it's just not gonna work. You know, these deputies that were being talked about, like, I hear the energy from the panel about how they're being harassed and how they're being mistreated, and like, I never see that energy when it comes to the public standing here and testifying with families like ours. There's multiple families that are here. We have the proof, and we're always being told that you guys need more proof. One problem that I did have with this motion or with this paper that had came out was the word cancer. And I could tell you that we have an aunt who had cancer. And when I was driving down 3rd Street in front of the East Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, we had deputies tailgating while I was taking my aunt to a chemotherapy. Do not use the word cancer when it comes to this, because this problem can be solved. This is not cancer. This could be eradicated. There's just a lot to say. One thing that I also did want to say is that Robert's not our savior. This problem is so much bigger than him, and it has to be abolished. I mean, we have court next month, and we can't even go to court because the deputies that are going to be testifying on the ALAD sides, they're in deputy gangs themselves. The coroner report that we got from Anthony, we had a sheriff that was there that has a fucking history that involves deputy gangs. It's just completely all around it. So I don't know, man, like this problem, it's just getting fucking old. We know what we have to do. Robert's not our savior. Google how this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Stephanie Luna, followed by Richie Sergenko, followed by Vanessa Perez.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Aunt of Anthony Vargas. This report documented the history of deputy gangs that is our county sheriff's department. There's hours of testimony from both former and current deputies, some who testified in person, others online with masked identities because of the fear of retaliation. What there isn't is testimony from families and community members that are faced with the retaliation by these deputy gang members on a daily basis and are left to deal with the multi-levels of PTSD that this department has inflicted on us. The ones that don't have a badge, the ones that don't have an association to run behind, the ones that have to document our harassment publicly. So if and when something happens to us, it's on public record that this has been going on. This report outlines a problem that has been around for decades and a problem that so many choose to ignore, including department officials. There are so many ignorant people asking for names of these deputy members like that Brady list doesn't exist. Like the Quiet Canyon and Kennedy Hall beatings didn't happen. Like deputy inking parties aren't real. This report is that blueprint. The family harassment report is that blueprint. Asking for more reform isn't effective anymore. These deputies not only speak their own language, they have their own culture and code that they follow. They're held accountable to no one. There's a new deputy gang that formed in the East LA station since the Bandidos maxed out its 100 members, all at the expense of human life in the form of beatings, shootings, and murders. What's being missed is that these guys are moving up the ranks. They're not just deputies that are in deputy gangs. They're homicide detectives, under sheriffs, assistant sheriffs, chiefs, commanders, captains, lieutenants, sergeants, training officers, coroners. They're working in internal affairs. They are the literal chain of command. They investigate themselves. They write their own reports. They set policies for themselves. They're in our jails, streets, schools, trains, hospitals. They have units flying in the damn sky plagued with deputy gangs. The anti-law enforcement gang stature that was set up by Alex in 2020 was dependent on LASD to investigate themselves. Civil trials such as ours can't even get deputy gangs admitted in proceedings because these guys are so protective. This is organized crime. How can you eradicate deputy gangs without overhauling the department? How can you eradicate deputy gangs when they are the department?
Thank you for your comment.
You have one more very quick comment.
Yes.
This quick. Speaking on eradicating the logos, the East LA Sheriff's Department has deputies that proudly display the Fort Apache logo on their batons, on their nightsticks. They walk around with their hands on these nightsticks in the community, showing them to the public, proudly displaying them. I know we can't check them for tattoos for whatever reason. Maybe we can start checking their batons for this Fort Apache logo. There's photographs of it.
Thank you.
Something needs to be done.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Richie Sergenko, followed by Vanessa Perez.
All right. Hello, commissioners. I'm Richie Sergenko. I don't want to act like we don't appreciate the efforts by the commission here, but I just did a quick search on the report, and I looked for the names of Anthony Vargas and John Horton. I certainly know that those family members have been here testifying at pretty much every single commission meeting or special hearing, excuse me. And so again, this report is just focused on the relationship between the deputies and the department and the sheriffs and individuals, and it doesn't really focus on the community members that are impacted, that have said not only again, there's so many different issues here, because we've had people come up here and talk about the coroner's office, how the coroner's office is in with the county and the board of supervisors and the sheriff's department. And then after these deaths, and the families that speak up about these things, they're then harassed by these same deputies. And again, these have happened for 50 years across decades under various sheriffs. And depending on Robert Luna to implement changes, I'm not confident in that happening. I'm not confident in one sheriff being able to carry out any of these changes. And since this public comment is featured specifically on the motion proposed by Commissioner Bonner, I thought it was very strange that you shut down Commissioner Giggans' request for it to be sent to the Board of Supervisors so quickly, when we're up here talking about, maybe the board of supervisors is complicit in it, and what's their role in all of this. And so maybe they should be the ones that implement changes, and not, we shouldn't depend on Sheriff Robert Luna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Vanessa Perez, followed by Peter Maloney.
Vanessa Perez. I'm the mother of Joseph Perez. And by your industry sheriffs, punched 121 times by your sheriffs, and he survived. What I want to say is that there needs to be an investigation on Villanueva. I mean, he was the ringleader of the circus after all. And then there needs to be he needs to be accountable, like Baca, including the undersheriff. There needs to be accountable. They need to be accountable, as well as the district attorney, the prosecutors, and in the courts. There needs to be an investigation. They played their part as well. I mean, my son, after he was being beat, he was stood in jail for 2 years and endured the jail violence after that. So there has to be some type of accountability in the court system. The district attorney's office, Gascon. And then moving these violent deputies that already have history of prior excessive force or killings, the murdering. You can't just send them to another department like Samuel Aldama. Samuel Aldama was at my front door asking for my 15-year-old daughter. That's unheard of. That's part of gang violence. That's gang stuff. That's what you do to get someone to shut up. After this was like 3 days after I confronted Villanueva at the Walnut meeting. And I understand this man spoke about the safety of the deputies being scared and being in fear, but what about us? What about the families? I mean, this is retaliation. This is our real life. This is what, at least you guys have the protection. Who's protecting us? We're the ones walking the streets looking for what's right. And we're vulnerable on this. My name is Vanessa.
Thank you.
Our last speaker, Peter Maloney.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Peter Maloney. I just have 2 questions for you. One of them I may have missed. I was a little bit late, but is there any sort of a recommendation that the damages from lawsuits that the sheriff causes are paid out of the sheriff's budget instead of constantly being paid out of the entire county fund? That just seems very problematic to me. The other thing I heard from the commissioners was the fear that this report would fall on deaf ears. My question to the commission is, what is your commitment and your plan to make certain that doesn't happen? Thank you.
Thank you. We looks like we're done with some very powerful public comment, but I'd like to take, I see there are some commissioners who.
This public comment was regarding the motion by Commissioner Robert Bonner. If you wish to speak right now on the motion, you can come and sign up for it.
Absolutely. We go ahead. The motion and the report are deeply related.
Rondell, the National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice Southwest Region. I'd like to add that there is our comments to the motion, to add to Commissioner Bonner's motion, our comments and what we consider not recommendations, because we're far beyond that. We are looking for deliverables. And particularly within the city of Compton, after having reviewed the special counsel report, we see that there are a lot of obstacles to eliminating deputy clicks in the sheriff's department. He mentioned ALAS, county council, and the LA County District Attorney's Office to that list. We would like to add the Board of Supervisors, and particularly the city of Compton, as a sheriff contractor that has failed its constituents by not monitoring and reporting sheriff activity outcomes in that city. Their lack of oversight has cost millions in settlements and many deaths of unarmed people. Moreover, practically no murder suspects are ever arrested in Compton. Despite the worldwide focus on sheriff gangs, some of which, some such as the executioners, originated in that city and posed an existential threat to public safety. The bump on the log silent leadership style of Compton elected officials, the city manager, and its department heads have violated their fiduciary responsibility to protect its tax-paying residents and stakeholders. And the Compton residents do not know if executioners, deputy gangs work in Compton Station, if any Proud Boys, 3%ers, or Oath Keepers work out of Compton Station. So again, we're beyond recommendations. We have a list of deliverables that I'd like to submit as part of the public record here that includes requiring disclosure of all sheriff contract personnel names, assignments, and employee number, require all incoming sheriff contract personnel to appear and introduce themselves to the public during city council meetings and tell their reasons for choosing to work in Compton and what benefits the city will receive from their presence. To remove as the sheriff as chief clause from the contract agreement with Compton to allow oversight from the city manager. To include contract language that prohibits deputies from participating in deputy gangs.
Thank you, sir, for your comment.
Penal Code Section 137.
Thank you.
Before I submit our recommendations too.
Right up in the back. We want your recommendations.
Our next speaker is Helen Jones.
Hello, commissioners. Thank you for the work that y'all doing, and thank you for letting us know that y'all really understand the problem with the deputy gangs, abuse, especially in the community. And we do understand that y'all have to do work for also for the police officer that's being harassed. But over the last 6 years, we've been coming to the COC, all the families, been expressing how we feel. So y'all know my son is like a broken record. I done spoke to the commission so many times of how 3,000 boys murdered my son, beat him to death, covered his death up to look like a suicide, bust all his organs in his bodies, beat him with the flashlight therapy like they have done so many family loved ones. We really urge this commission to do a full investigation yourself on the deputy gangs. There's only so much y'all know that the Luna is going to be able to do. He can't take down his own department. He can't make his own department look bad. Y'all know that from every other sheriff had came in here and ran this sheriff department. He can't really do too much more than what they have done. We also asking this commission to urge the board, the supervisors, to do an overhaul of the sheriff department. Giving them more training and all that, that's not going to work. They done that. And that's why they keep asking for more money for more training. But over the last 6 years, y'all have watched family after family come up here, cry, pour their hearts out, pour their guts out. And we know that there's only so much y'all can do. But we asking y'all to do a full investigation on the county, on the sheriff department. Also bring in the county coroner who's covering up these deaths, rubber stamping the sheriff department with these deaths. We asking y'all to do this because if y'all don't, people are going to continue to die. After report, just like I just want to say one more thing, that just like the DPN and UCLA report have came out.
Thank you.
Nobody's paying attention to it. Nobody's doing nothing about it. So we just asking y'all, please do your own investigation. And we have the proofs in our autopsy reports. Thank you.
Thank you. Our final speaker, Isaac Asbury.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Isaac Asbury, and I'm the president of National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice for California. My journey started 15 years ago when Avery Cody Jr., 16 years old, was shot in the city of Compton, broad daylight, by what was later alleged to be a jump out boy. 15 years ago, we didn't have a commission, so you pretty much were on your own. So kind of coming to a conclusion. We have a commission. You guys are doing a good job. Got the best attorney right here. And you got the best prosecutor or investigator sitting right over there. She's been with this from when Baca went to jail in Tanaka. So don't think we're just in here speaking and doing commissions. I have a list of, I back up. They told me if I wanted to know who were in the gangs, I would have to gather the information myself. Okay. I gathered the information. Okay. I have over 1,665 names I want to submit. I know which gang. That's one. I know how many shootings. You give me the list. I know if you've been in 5 shootings, 7 shootings, we have that information. Also, we have an alphabetical database that we can pick any name in the past 20 years and tell you how many shootings, fatal and non-fatal, these officers have been in. My goal is to take them to the next step, charge them and prosecute. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where can I submit my information?
Up here, because I'd like to see those. So are we concluded with the public comment? I don't know if it's ordinary, but I see there's some interest from commissioners to speak, and this is such an important issue that I would like to take those comments. JP?
Thank you, Chair. First, I would also like to thank all the members of the ad hoc committee. This has been a very long road we've been on, not without its bumps, and just glad we have arrived where we have today. I want to publicly thank Counsel Diexler for the hard work he has done and all of the pro bono, the other attorneys who are not here today that have assisted him in bringing us, I think, some actionable information that is going to be very hard for any public official to ignore. Just a couple of things I want to comment on based upon the comments of the public. We do hear what you say to us. We acknowledge the pain many of you continue to suffer day in and day out because of things that have happened at the hands of deputy sheriffs, and we definitely hear you. I'm particularly moved by Mr. Carrillo journey that he was forced on. Glad to see that there seems to be some semblance of recovery, very good recovery from what I can see, but I still know that never should have happened, and the pain you have suffered is inexcusable. I want you to know you are always in my heart and in my mind in all discussions of this commission. So thank you very much for your comments today, because I agree with you. I think we are making progress, but we are far from done. Someone else made the comment that cancers can't be cured. I don't think I agree with that statement. Some cancers can be cured. We're going to continue to work on curing this cancer, but recognize the journey is not over yet. And that's where I look back into the report and I'm reminded that Judge Colts made a recommendation about 30 years ago that the Sheriff's Department needed to have civilian oversight. Had that civilian oversight been provided at that time, I'd like to think we wouldn't be having this discussion today. Guarantee that, but I think it would have been a step in the right direction. But we're here now, and we still have our challenges, without question. And we are committed to continuing the battle to do what's right for the community. So I just want to let the community know that we are committed, and I hope this commission, and I know this commission will continue to keep the pressure on in appropriate places to see that this report is addressed appropriately. There's one last comment. Someone made the comment that, Sheriff Luna's but one man and he can't fix all this. And I couldn't agree with you more. No one person can fix this. It takes all of us. And I just want everyone to know that we are committed. I want the sheriff to know we are committed to working with him to come to a good resolution, that recognizing this is going to take a lot of work and continued work ongoing into the future. So I wholeheartedly endorse this report. Along with my second, I will definitely vote to adopt it. Thank you.
Patty?
Yeah, I appreciate the comments today from the community, which we have been hearing for 6 years. If it wasn't the creativity and the advocacy of the wider community, and particularly the families who have suffered from the abuse of power of law enforcement, this commission would not exist. And we knew that from the very beginning. The Board of Supervisors knew that from the very beginning. That's why we exist. And every program that we've analyzed or had hearings about or made recommendations about, including the Family Assistance Program, the recommendations that we made for MET to increase MET, all of that came from the community. Our work really has made a difference because of the testimonies and the advocacy. And so when I just want to say, when the history of our commission is written, and when the preamble to this report is written, I believe the community involvement and courage to keep coming and keep talking about it in the face of retaliation on the one hand, and then just benign neglect on the other, that will be written, and that story will be told. And when the movie's made, I'm hoping that the story will be told from the perspective of the community.
Thank you. Lael?
I want to thank all of the members of the community, particularly Ms. Jones, who has come here. I can't even recount the number of times and the conversations that we've had and the pain that you have discussed, and you don't yet have any answers. The Vargas family, Luna, Ms. Perez, the list goes on. And while I certainly support this report, I do think that the families and the community have not been appropriately recognized in this report, and their input and their own recommendations. And my hope was that that they would have an opportunity so that could be appended in some way as part of this report. I mean, it needs to be part of the report in some way, so it is a much fuller picture. So I don't quite know how that would, if in fact the commission voted to approve the report and send it to the sheriff and the Board of Supervisors today. I want to make sure that the report would have the significant written responses and suggestions from members of the community. And I don't quite know at this point if whether it should be the adoption of the report should be delayed a week or so, or whether we should move forward now and then somehow it gets appended later. I know from past experience that if you don't do it now, it doesn't happen, which is why I think I would urge my fellow commissioners to give an opportunity for the community for their written responses, and also the ACLU, as Mr. Kwan has has spoken so much about, that that is memorialized in writing as part of this report.
Could I comment on that, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, and there may be additional recommendations by the ACLU, and I know we got some potentially very interesting recommendations from other members of the community who spoke here. And that's something that I think, and there may be some additional facts that should be made, but that can be made part of a supplemental report by the special counsel. It's his report after all, and we have to respect that. But I would just submit to the commission that while there may be some additional information or recommendations that could be made, we ought not to hold up the thoughtful recommendations that special counsel has made. In fact, special counsel ended his comments by saying, change must happen now. And I would submit to you that change must start now. And it starts with adopting the 27 recommendations of special counsel. There may be others that we'll consider and adopt at a future meeting. In any event, I would just say, it's been oft said, let's not make the perfect the enemy of the good. We have 27 good recommendations. Let's adopt them. I urge you to support the motion I made. Patty?
Yeah, I agree. The sheriff has the report. The report is out there. We should not be timid now. We want to recognize that there, as all of you have said, there's going to be other recommendations and a supplemental, including telling the story of the importance of how this whole thing came about would be a worthy story to tell in a supplemental. But I don't think we should wait. And I really do want the Board of Supervisors not to be CC'd, but to be actually handed this document and saying, you need to do something about this.
Bert?
Perhaps I can assist. I'll commit to preparing a supplemental report to cover specifically the issues that would be addressed by the public, to supplement information that has come to us recently, so that the fullest possible picture can be displayed to the sheriff, to the Board of Supervisors, to the public. The issue is often enough. We've come this far that I'm willing, well, almost happy to continue in this task if that would be helpful to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bert. Well, I want to say to the community here, this commission really struggles because your comments are well taken. But as someone who has been investigating deputy gangs even before the commission took it up with my students at Loyola, it is very hard to uncover the evidence of the harm to the community because the county agencies have normalized the gangs and worked together to hide the results to the community. The county council has already been remarked, asserts legal privileges to keep the information out, and they file motions in court to prevent people who do know from saying so before a jury. The district attorney, who certainly is well positioned to ask the gang members the questions that community members suspect the answers, but don't actually know the answers. The DA could do that. In fact, I think has a constitutional obligation to do that for 60 years plus, and they don't do it. And then the Justice System Integrity Division that investigates the shootings, they don't ask if the shooter is involved in a gang. And so part of the struggle the Civilian Oversight Commission has, and frankly, the coroner, as has been brought up today, and that's a very good point, because I have read the UCLA report and the withholding of autopsy reports from the families whose loved ones have died, and I'll say it, Michelle, they deserve those reports in a timely manner, and they don't get it. And it all goes on under the stead of the Board of Supervisors. who overwatches it all. And so, Bert, I appreciate your offer. Maybe our work is not done here. Maybe we have to have a supplemental report and even supplemental hearings. And, my dean will faint, but if we have to have a supplemental hearing or two here that focuses specifically on the harm to the community, so be it, because I do think I speak for this commission. Everyone is truly committed to unearthing the truth, to stopping the various the county agencies who have hidden the truth for years from the people that they are supposed to protect and to serve. And it's not right. It just is not right that we cannot release things like the county council's opinion saying the sheriff can investigate the gangs. It's not right that there's a list of suspected gang members that apparently the inspector general can't release because of the state laws or whatever. There has to be a way to solve or to work around these issues so that the truth comes out. And so I apologize for if there isn't enough information there, but it isn't from a lack of trying, I assure you, and we're going to try even harder to get to the bottom of this. So there has been a motion and it has been seconded. I would be remiss as the chair if I didn't say to you, Rob and JP, and really all my colleagues, it is the ordinary course of this commission to have a report presented to the commissioners and to give them full time to consider the report and to give the community full time to weigh in and speak about that report. So in all of our other reports, we give the report to the commission. We have a report, we have the kind of robust conversation that we've had, and then we wait until the next regularly scheduled meeting to vote on it. I'm not saying that we should do that here. I'm saying that it should be recognized that that is the way we ordinarily do it. And if we just adopt this report, we're changing our procedures. So that said, Rob, do you still want to make your motion?
Yeah, I do want to make my motion. I disagree with the history here. We have had reports presented to us, and we have with recommendations, and we voted to adopt those recommendations on the very same hearing in which they were presented. And I cite the recommendations on body-worn cameras that we made. And thank God we made it, because we did push that issue along. I believe we did this on the Met teams issue. I can't recall exactly, but it was so clear that we should adopt the recommendations that Patty's ad hoc had come up with, that we voted on them and we approved them the same day. We did not say, oh, let's have another hearing because we need to think about these further. We do not need to think about these recommendations further, I would submit to this commission, and we need to get them to the sheriff. We need to get these to Sheriff Luna as soon as possible. And that means today, if at all possible. So I urge that that the motion be voted for and approved as I've stated it.
I hear you, Rob. I just want to say, I thought we changed that practice precisely so that we would have full debate. JP, do you stand by your second?
Well, I'm going to say, since it seems to be sitting on me right now, I hear what you're saying, Sean, very clearly, but I also agree with Mr. Bonner. I think these recommendations are solid. Could we do more? I also agree with that. Would it be best to have some additional information be provided, not just to the sheriff, but to the Board of Supervisors, incorporating the comments that have been made, not just today, but in all of our meetings concerning the public and the harm that has been done, so the Board of Supervisors are well aware of that. So I have to say I'm torn, because I agree with you, and I also agree with Mr. Bonner. I think these recommendations are solid. I don't see these recommendations being modified based upon providing the Board of Supervisors and the public with additional information that the public has provided to us. So I think I'm going to stick with my second.
Okay. Call for the question.
I have a
call
question.
for the question,
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Chair. I call for the question.
Hey,
Let's vote on this and move on.
Hey, let's all chill out. No. Let's all chill out. Rob, I have let you speak every time you want to speak, and I'm going to let every other member of this commission do the same. So, Lael, you have something to say.
I do, and that is that the other commissioner members, separate and apart from the ad hoc committee, the first opportunity they have had to review the 61 pages of the report and recommendation was Wednesday when it was first posted on the website. As you all know, the Brown Act prohibits discussions except in agendized meetings. And I do believe that the other 5 members of the commission, 2 of whom are unfortunately not here today, may have believed that 2 days to review this incredibly dense and thoughtful report and recommendation might not have been enough. I obviously can't speak for the other 5 commissioners because I have lived with this for a long time. But I would be remiss if I expressed some concern that the other 5 commissioners really did not have a full and fair opportunity to review this. And certainly for the 2 commissioners who are not here today, whose thoughtful input we should have as well.
Anyone else?
I think that have been living. Points are well made. Commissioners haven't had this for long. Been going through this for 50 years.
Well, I think it'd be more than a week. Our next meeting is March 16th. Patty, you might want to.
Well, could I ask if there's any other commissioner that would?
I would like to.
I was just going to, I was
No,
going to
Wait,
ask that.
Well, would you ask the question? And
That's just what I was
okay,
doing.
I'm sorry I'm so passionate about this issue of ending deputy clicks within the sheriff's department, but I am. So I apologize if I raised.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I think the train has left the station. The train has left the station. Unfortunately, whatever our internal communication about what we're going to be doing here today, however that got miscommunicated or et cetera, the Board of Supervisors is waiting for it. The sheriff has it. The community has talked about it. I think the idea of a supplemental, and plus there's going to be other, hopefully this is a living document. People are not going to like it. It's going to be refuted. It's already been refuted by the former sheriff. We're going to get other refutations and arguments. So, maybe we should have done it in a little bit more of a timely manner, but we didn't. And now it will be really, I'm sorry, we would be silly to not proceed. So I give a very firm second to move on and adopt this and then do a supplemental and then let's make it happen.
So I assume that's a second.
Yes, a second.
Okay.
A long second.
Anything else, or can we take a vote?
Yeah, I just.
Luis? Oh, Luis, go ahead.
So I do see the urgency of this. For 50 years is the context. I would argue probably maybe even longer. And, we're in this moment of time where the perception is that we have a sheriff that is open, into reforms and implementing. Not sure about measuring, but I think we'll get there. And I think right now, this opportune time to get this report out will be a great first step, after 6 years of, this being going on in this commission. And I think it will begin conversations that will go into other levels that we can, as a commission, look at. So I'm supporting that.
Okay, can we take a vote? Ingrid?
Commissioner Bonner,
Aye.
Commissioner Garcia,
Aye.
Commissioner Giggans, Commissioner Harris,
No.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Mayor Kennedy,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin.
No, for the reasons I've stated. I think we need the community input.
Okay, with a vote of 5 ayes and 2 noes, motion carries.
I think that concludes our business for this commission. Bert, I just want to say personally how
There's
appreciative
comment.
I am of all the work that you have done for us under impossible circumstances. You are truly the real deal. And I just want to say, I don't think this ad hoc could have gotten through this process without you. And I just respect and admire you and everything you have done on this issue for everyone in this room and most importantly, all the people out there in the community.
Thank
Chair
you.
Kennedy,
Here.
I just wanted to note that we still have the speakers who signed up to speak for general public comment.
I thought we took it all at once,
No,
That was for the
but we're going to
motion.
take a break.
Okay. We'll be back at 11:15.
course. What are you teaching today in criminal?
Matt.
Oh. Great.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Here. So I just have to take that.
Of course.
I so appreciate you being there.
Nice to see you too. Thank you again.
So nice to see you, man. I'm sorry I'm always pissed off, but you know, okay, all right. Comes from the heart.
Thank you.
The mic's on. Careful.
We're on the same page.
Yeah, of course. Right.
Yes, John, all the time.
Yes.
But I want to.
No, good.
Okay, we're going to resume our hearing on Deputy Giggans. This is the 8th special hearing. I think I think I made a procedural error and we have to have another round. Well, not have to. We invite another round of public comments on general matters. I also want to say, obviously got a little heated. People are passionate about these issues. So, you know, let's just hear each other out, because that we are this far, that we have gotten this far is a testament to the commitment and collegiality of this commission. So, public comment. Yes? Yes. No, because well, I assume county council will say we would need another round. So why don't you make your motion right now?
I would like to move that the Board of Supervisors specifically and intentionally in our part receive a copy of our adopted recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay. Ingrid, can we take the vote, or do we need to do anything else?
We can take public comment on the,
On everything?
we can do it all at once.
Okay, so we're going to do the public comment and then we're going to take that vote, Patty and JP.
So our first speaker is Vanessa Perez, followed by Andres Kwan, followed by Rondell.
And I'm Joseph Andrew Perez's mother, Vanessa. So I wanted to touch on Deputy Paul Sedana. He was the last officer that beat my son after the 107 punches. Deputy Saldana came in with the last 14 punches. And now he's at my daughter's high school. So the man that attempted to murder her brother is at my daughter's high school. Nogales High School in West Covina. I can't get this man off the campus. They threatened me with the restraining order. They've asked me not to be on the campus. And that's ridiculous because my daughter goes there. I'm going to be on the campus. This man has took pictures of me and used them in our court case for the restraining order, which they denied. Well, denied the court order, but they accepted the pictures. I need him off the campus. I need my daughter away from this man. I guess there's a 1-year training that he went through for a school resource officer. And I think this incident alone should make that contract end. It should not be there. My daughter should not have to go there with him. Much less any other student at school, because if he's having a bad day and the kid tells him to F off, what's gonna happen? Is he gonna beat the way my son? Second, the MCJ records. I've been asking for them for a while. I cannot get them, the medical records from MCJ. I don't know who's in charge of that or who I gotta talk to get them. Also, I wanted to say thank you to each of you guys. I do believe that there's change.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Our second speaker, Andres Kwan, followed by Rondell, followed by Isaac Asbury.
That is Quan, ACLU. As we embark on listening to the families, they'll tell us, as many have today, that we should not engage in some pie in the sky thinking that a new sheriff in town will be our savior, suddenly solving all our problems, especially a crisis so pervasive that it's persisted sheriff after sheriff for almost 6 decades. We are naive to think Luna and his management will eradicate deputy gangs out of the goodness of their hearts, even if Luna is supposedly on board. In this context, we need to remember that McDonald initially said the right things and nothing happened. But no, it's going to take everything we got, which means every relevant stakeholder doing their part. But county council has been a huge obstacle, as the report indicates. Using our taxpayer dollars, has been complicit in hiding and enabling deputy gangs. The coroner, over the years, has effectively colluded with the sheriff's department. MCJ is still open, like an open wound, continuing to be a breeding ground for deputy gangs. So we must also address these related problems holistically. Deputy gang members, while egregious, aren't the only deputies violating the law and our civil rights. The real problem is the culture of the department that gives rise to deputy gangs in the first place. And so this report's recommendations for policies and training and reforms, while necessary and worthy of adoption, will just not be sufficient. What we truly need is structural change, a holistic approach. That's why the families and Check the Sheriff brought Measure A last year with the support of the Board of Supervisors. And we must ask this board to continue to intervene in every possible way. And yes, this will take significant political capital. The real villain was never Villanueva, really. It's been ALAS all along and all their institutional enablers and the deep-seated inertia in our county. But here's a note of encouragement. We won Measure A with a resounding yes from 72% of Angelinos and Measures J and R just before that. This, folks, is a mandate, a clarion call for sheriff accountability. So let's use it. Let's go all out because that is what it's going to take.
Thank you, Andres.
Our next speaker, Rondell, followed by Isaac Asbury, followed by Richie Sergenko.
As I mentioned earlier, the other guilty parties here are involved parties include the City of Compton and the Board of Supervisors. I would only add that the Compton as a city is not helpless and that we do have agency here, but this is a test of those who are leading the city, of their ability to govern and to govern effectively. That is really the point here. So instead of the parties they like to have, the little food giveaways and all of that thing, they are being tested right now on their ability to govern and to govern effectively and properly. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Isaac Asbury, followed by Richie Sergenko, followed by Helen Jones.
I will be quick. The Sheriff's Department, the incident report officer involved shooting website, when you go to it and you check on the transparency, Luna took over this information going back 20 years. Now Luna's in office is only going back 5 years, so it needs to be looked into. And I would like to look at the LAPD's critical officer involved shooting website. Way more informative and up to date and accurate compared to the sheriff's outdated information. Thank you. I want to also thank the Vargas family for sticking in here. That's
Our next speaker refrained from speaking, and so that leaves us with our last speaker, Helen Jones.
Again, thank you, commissioners, for, really recognizing the deputy gangs. Thank you for all the work you do. Exposing these deputy gangs. But we really heard y'all today here also when you said, Sean Kennedy, that y'all hands are tied on a lot of things, and we here to help y'all untie these things so we can get some type of accountability for our family members. Like we said again, this trauma goes on for years. This month on the 30th, it'll be 14 years that my son was murdered by the 3,000 Boys deputy gang, viciously beat to death. And there's so many other families shot down in the street, beat in jail cells. And we really, really, really would urge in this commission to do your own investigation. Because if the sheriff department know that y'all doing investigation, then they know y'all know what they seeing. We have the evidence. We have the autopsy reports. We have the crime scene photos. We have the truth. We have the name of these gang members right in our autopsy, right in our reports, in our depositions. So start with us if y'all want to do this investigation. We have the proof. You don't have to go seek it out for somebody that won't give it to you.
Right.
We'll hand it over to you. We'll bring it here. You know, so it's a way to do this. It's a way to do this to where this can be done. We know that this is a cancer that can be dug out. We can do this. But y'all got to really listen to us. What we're saying, we've been telling y'all for years, we have the names. We have the evidence. You don't have to ask the sheriff department for the evidence. We have it already. Start with the names that you do have. And y'all can see this will really change. Because we do have to get rid of the deputy gangs. We got to get rid of them once and for all. Because the sheriff department is not going to do that. Luna don't have that power. He's not going to do that. So we got to make sure that he get rid of the gangs. Thank you.
We have one last speaker, Michelle Infante.
I would definitely encourage this commission to read the report from UCLA. Helen and I have been working together for 5 years, and it was her case that brought forward that made us start looking at everyone else's autopsy reports. And you can see how the sheriff's department has permeated themselves into the room where they have murdered someone. So now we have the murderer investigating the murder. And I know I've said this before and some of you may not like it, but that's too bad. It's the murderer investigating the murder. That's just straight up what it is. And when you find out the people that are inside there that are watching the autopsy report after they are the ones who just killed somebody, offering through Helen's deposition, offering information regarding the possibilities of what could have happened to that person, you'll really start to understand the depth of where the sheriff's department have gone, not only in the air, on the ground, in custody, but they're also wrapped up in the county coroners. And the coroner doesn't have any responsibility to anything except for to the county board of supervisors. And that's why, once again, while all you new folks are up here, I'm going to remind you that the county board of supervisors has a conflict of interest involved in the work that they're doing. They shouldn't be picking prices of people's body parts. Tell these families whose loved ones have been killed by LASD how much they're going to be giving someone. They're the ones in advance that knows what's happened to that body, the amount of injuries, because of the conflict of interest between them and the county coroner. So I would urge you to please read the UCLA report, understand what these families are going through and what it's like for someone like Helen Jones to look at a piece of paper and know that the very people that have killed her son, John Horton, are the ones that are standing there in the room offering advice as to what could have happened to that person. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Two things for the record.
Yes.
First, I've asked Miss Infante to given her my card and asked her to coordinate among family members to contribute to the supplemental report, which I gather hearing. And also, I did think it important. I've just received from the acting executive director email, which is a statement attributed to the county council, which
Can you read that?
I would like to read just the first two paragraphs. County council says, we support the special counsel's general conclusion that LASD deputy gangs have been responsible for undermining the discipline, morale, and safety of the department and the public. However, the special counsel's accusation, county counsel's office somehow provided cover for LASD deputy gangs, is not accurate. In fact, statement goes on, our office has been at the forefront of the board's efforts to identify and eradicate these illegal deputy gangs, to prevent problem deputies from being rehired to the force, and to take concrete actions in pursuit of full law enforcement transparency. Then it provides a list of steps that county council claims it has taken. I thought it'd be important. Closing point.
What a point to end on. Obviously, our work is not done. We're going to take a vote.
Commissioner Garcia? Commissioner Giggans? Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson? Chair Kennedy?
Yes.
Commissioner Rubin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
That concludes the 8th special hearing on deputy gangs. We have a regularly scheduled meeting on March 16th. I don't know if we know where that is. So, pardon? St. Anne's? Oh, look for us on the web. We'll announce where that is. Thank you.
Thank you.